It's Nolan.
Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show.
Slow down, slow down. Yeah. Slow down. J Nolan. I was thrown into the fast past life full of distractions like my dad's life. Till I studied another practice in this pandemic. Unemployed, looking for joy, trying to fill a void. So many spirits been destroyed, the cuss and the hustle. Till we get humble, cold world, gotta dress in bundles. Product of struggle, bag fumble. But I got off the sidelines, overviewing my guidelines. Open my mind's eye, jump to my fate, I'm screaming banzai. Whoa, take your time, learn the lesson, realize. A moment's notice could lead us to the skies. Lies over the tube, books tell us the wrong dates and times. That's indication we should focus on family ties. It's such a crazy world. Can't nobody tell the future in the rush for that destination to show up in a stupid. It's how we maneuver. But I reckon the change coming. Whether or not we get it, I just had to say something. Yeah.
Life is too short, gotta treasure. Love yours, cause ain't nothing better. Don't believe the hype is a setup. Run your own lane, keep your head up. Slow down, slow down. Slow down, slow down. Slow down.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. I want to go ahead and preface this video from the jump. By the time you see this, there may be more updates out there. This thing is moving fast with this whole Diddy trial. But as of this recording, it's about 4 o'clock p.m., okay? So anything beyond 4 o'clock p.m., I probably won't have necessarily, other than what's captured in the midst of this video. And you'll probably have to go check out some other sources. I would recommend following Inner City Press on X if you want up to the minute updates, because he's literally, all of his tweets are literally transcribed from the courtroom. So he's got all the quotes. This entire video is going to be, shout out to Inner City Press, because he's transcribing on his Twitter page from the opening statements of this morning up to literally right now as I'm sitting here introducing this video. Whatever's happening in the courtroom, it is being tracked by that channel, that page. Okay. Now, again, anything after this, you're going to have to get from there or another content creator that's following it. But y'all know we've been covering this Diddy thing from the jump. From Cassie lawsuit to Lil Rod lawsuit to the raid that happened at Diddy's homes. Some of the other stuff that took place we covered, but, you know, at a certain point I tapped out on the hundreds of lawsuits that just started getting tacked on. I decided that I'm really kind of just waiting on the federal, and this is the federal case. This is the official case. This is the criminal case that will have ramifications of potential jail time if found guilty. This is the trafficking case. All right. So there's a lot riding on what's happening here. And I think they say something about potentially going 8 weeks with this. I ain't doing daily updates for 8 weeks. I'm going to go ahead and just promise you that. But I'll do what I can to stay abreast of incoming information, all right? So let's just go ahead and set the scene, okay? Cassie is, I believe, confirmed to be testifying in this trial. They've got a Jane Doe who at this time is unnamed, but she is an ex romantic interest, I'll say, of Diddy. We have Diddy's former personal assistant who will be testifying, as she claims that she was also SA'd by Diddy during her time working for him. I believe that they have the security guard who was at the hotel the day of him, the brutal beating that he gave to Cassie. I believe this is the guard that was there. Will be testifying. They have escorts who are coming in to testify. And anything beyond that, I don't know. They have potential other celebrities that they claim could be subpoenaed to appear. One of those is Michael B. Jordan, who dated Cassie in the past, who Diddy had a jealous outrage allegedly in his direction. Kanye West is a potential. There's some other people as well. It's still in the air whether or not they're going to be involved in this because they have a lot going on. Who knows? But as I'm setting the stage, let's go ahead and get into what Inner City Press has been posting from inside the courtroom. Okay? Now, I want to go ahead and preface once again, there will be no photos from this trial. There will be no videos from this trial, as this is a federal criminal case. These devices are not being permitted into the courtroom to take photo and or video, so there will be none from anyone. All of the channels that are following this case live, their cameras are outside the courthouse. So if you're looking for that level of insight, you're not really going to find it, period. Okay? And anybody who violates that from inside the courtroom is going to face punishment. So they're not going to risk their life, their career, or potential jail time to appease people in the public. All right? Just getting all that out the way first. All right. So Inner City Press started at 8:37 a.m. If you're not here for the long haul on this, you came to the wrong video because we're going to be going through each update. He says Sean Combs has still not been brought into the courtroom. The lawyers are milling around. Brian Steele, we know that Brian Steele, formerly representing Young Thug, is now representing Diddy as co-defense. They say Brian Steele comes up to Asa Maureen Kami to shake hands. Agnifilo and Alexandra Shapiro conferring, not to be confused with Alex Spiro that works with Jay-Z. Two different people. This is a woman here. First step, peremptory challenges to 45 prospective jurors. So this is giving a little bit of insight into the jury selection process. They say 8:53. Sean Combs is now in the courtroom wearing a light sweater instead of last week's dark blue. He turns and blows a kiss to family members in the second row of the gallery. 8:56. Clerk says, are the parties ready? Yes. Clerk, Mr. Combs, were you able to get some water? We'll make arrangements for that. Now, there are a few typos from Inner City Press. We won't hold that too close to heart. Judge Subramanian has still not come into the courtroom. 9:03 a.m. Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos are pouring over papers, presumably for peremptory challenges to prospective jurors. Combs, wearing reading glasses, is also looking down at papers. 3 of the 6 prosecutors are looking at or typing on their cell phones. 9:26. Combs' lawyer Agnifilo and prosecutor Maureen Kami are the ones in with Judge Subramanian, presumably doing the preemptory strikes to the jury pool. In New York State Court, this is all done in public in the courtroom on the record. Wait for announcement of jurors. 9:34, and we're off. Judge Subramanian, good morning. We are here for peremptory challenges. Ms. Kami, we strike juror 51. Agnifilo, we strike 52 and 106. Kami, we strike 216. Agnifilo, 157 and 112. 112. Kami, we strike 118. Agnifilo, we strike 127 and 131. Kami, we strike 81. Agnifilo, we strike 149 and 20. Kami, we strike 161. Agnifilo, we strike 22 and 84. Kami says the defense was only supposed to strike 1 in this round. He says, so we only strike 22. Kami, we strike 163. Agnifilo, we strike 84. These are jurors being stricken, okay? They're telling who they don't want on the jury. Kami, we strike 220. Agnifilo, we strike 25. Kami, I believe He was supposed to strike in the alternative. Agnifilo, give me 1 second, confers with Nicole Westmoreland, 218. Kami, we strike 324. Agnifilo, 240. Kami, we strike 281. Agnifilo, 1 moment. Okay, it's almost like a goddamn auction at this point. Combs, Agnifilo, I note that the government has struck 7 black people out of 9 strikes. Okay, so Diddy's defense is now saying, hey, it seems like you are striking black people out of the jury pool and creating a pattern, right? You don't want black people in the jury. Judge states, I'll give you a chance to raise that, but let's continue. Agnifilo, we strike 307. Okay, judge comes in. Our jurors 2, 5, 25, 28, 55, 58, 75, 116, 160, 184, 201, 217, 230, 234, 247, 292, 321, 330. Agnifilo says the U.S. struck 7 black people, which amounts to a pattern. Judge says an application has been made under Batson. Miss Kami says we are neutral. Juror 51 knew 17 of the names, appeared to have seen making the band, has a relative with law enforcement issues. Okay, so now Miss Kami is going to explain why these particular black people were strucken from the jury based on their background, okay? Knowledge of the case, because you're supposed to come in with as much of a clean slate as possible to not be biased in the jury. The next strike, he harassed a police officer and didn't report it. Wow. His sister had an issue. This clears the bar. These are good reasons. Juror 81. We think they claim to have special knowledge of bipolar issues. 161. He said he watched news about the case that morning. He said it was inevitable. He'd lose 30% of his income, but once on, he has an agenda. Continued. We struck 163, I believe, for cause due to English proficiency, and he had a relative who shot a police officer. Among the alternates, we barred a person who went to Mr. Combs High School. Yeah, that's a little close. The next one, 324, has sleep apnea. Now, I don't know what sleep apnea has to do with being in the jury pool. Maybe they can't control, if they fall asleep in the room, they're going to goddamn start going wild on the snoring or something. I don't know. But that's what they said. Kami, he also called the police assholes. Okay, so this is further. We struck him for having an anti-police stance. And 281, she said victims can catch a case and jump on a bandwagon. We think she has an agenda. These easily clear Batson's bar, because clearly that is a bias to say people are, I guess, jumping on a bandwagon. Judge says, I denied the defense's Batson challenge. These were not based on purposeful discrimination. Mr. Agnifilo, anything more? He says nothing from us. So the judge said, I have no problem with these people being stricken. Agnifilo had no further contention. We'll continue. He's promoting shit. We'll get back to it. All right, 10:17 a.m. Jurors are seated. Judge Subramanian, welcome back. This is U.S. vs. Sean Combs. We will be providing lunch for you in the jury room. We will not release your names to the public. Clerks, swear in the jurors. Judge outlines, questions are not evidence. Only the answers given by the witnesses and the documents are evidence. You can consider circumstantial evidence, like someone walking in with a dripping umbrella. You can surmise it's raining outside even if you don't see it. That a witness uses a pseudonym does not mean that their testimony is worthy of less weight. So just because somebody is not using their actual name, their testimony still has to be taken with the same level of relevancy, despite not knowing that person's name or knowing that that person's not using their real name. During the trial, do not read or view or listen to anything about this case, and don't post anything. Once the U.S. rests, the defense can present should he choose to. Okay? U.S. Attorney Johnson comes in, and these are opening statements, is what we're getting to here from this morning. This is Sean Combs. To the public, he was a cultural icon, a businessman larger than life. But there was another side to him. You will hear about 20 years of the defendant's crimes. He had a team to help him: kidnapping, arson, drugs, sex crimes. Let's start with one night. He was on the hunt for his girlfriend, Cassie. He forced her to have sex with male escorts while he watched and recorded. He found out Cassie was seeing another man. Furious, he set out to find Cassie and another man. Okay? Now, one perhaps man that we know of is Kid Cudi, who allegedly had his car exploded. Another man who dealt with Cassie allegedly was Michael B. Jordan. We don't know which one they're referring to in this instance, but we do have that. He woke an employee to drive to the house, but no one was there. The defendant didn't give up. He kept looking for Cassie. When he found her, he beat her brutally, kicking her in the back and flinging her around like a rag doll, but it wasn't enough. He told Cassie he could release video of her having sex with male escorts. He broke into a man's house and he beat and blackmailed his girlfriend. Jesus. These are not his only crimes. Cassie is not the only woman he beat and sexually exploited. 20 years of crimes. He had a business, Bad Boy Records, that made him right. He relied on his bodyguards, chiefs of staff who ran all aspects of his life. The group promoted his power. His bodyguards kidnapped an employee and set a car on fire. That would be Kid Cudi, whose car was lit. Dangled a person, which was not Wale, for anybody who still believes that. We'll show a video later of Wale also denying that, but it was actually a woman who was dangled over a balcony, not Wale. They delivered drugs whenever he said, including to women he forced to have sex with escorts. He transported them across state lines and even out of the country. Let me be very clear. This case is not about a celebrity's private sexual preferences. This was criminal. He coerced and even used violence. A lot of this trial will focus on two women, Cassie and Jane. Of course, Jane is Jane Doe. She's using a pseudonym. We will show that the defendant used lies, drugs, and threats of violence to force them to have sex with him in front of male escorts. He called them freak-offs, wild king nights, or hotel nights. His staff organized flights, cars, and hotels. At his direction, his staff set up the room with lubricant and lighting. Staff came in with cash to pay the escorts and drugs. He made them take MDMA or Molly and ecstasy. It made them sick, but also sexually aroused. Okay? This is the U.S. attorney, okay, outlining their opening statements of their allegations. He directed every step. He expected the women to appear to enjoy themselves. He masturbated and recorded the events. Cassie was 19 with a hit song. Cassie tried to work on her music, but the defendant made her turn down many opportunities. She recorded, but he had the final say over the music she released. There was never another album. He'd sit Cassie in, hit, not sit. Again, I told y'all there's some grammatical errors in here. He hit Cassie in the head and dragged her by the hair. He stomped on Cassie's face in an SUV. This is something completely separate from the hotel incident. Then made her stay in a hotel for a week to hide her injuries. He set up freak-offs as often as once a week. She spent half of her time. The defendant made an escort urinate in her mouth. My God. As you will see in this trial, he beat her in the hallway of a hotel to drag her back into the freak-off. Initially, she wanted to make him happy, but then she didn't want to, but the defendant made her. The consequences were severe. He beat her when he thought she took too long in the bathroom. Defying him would end in violence. She fled, but he found her with the help of his inner circle. Cassie's career was in his hands, not her hands, or you want to say wasn't in her hands. He told her he could destroy her career by releasing video. When he said to have a freak off, she knew she had no choice. She called the escort and put on the performances he wanted. Her safety depended on keeping him happy. The relationship was complicated. Both were unfaithful, but only one of them had power. He made Cassie do his bidding in those dark hotel rooms. Cassie was not the only one. This was a pattern. Okay, then he goes into Miss Jane Doe, who was also a romantic interest of Diddy. Let me tell you about Jane. She was a single mom that started spending time with him in 2020, so this is much more recent. This is after breaking it off with Cassie. She fell in love with him. He was seeing other women. One night he told Jane about freak-offs and made it happen immediately. He took her to a hotel where an escort was on the way, so soon as she was informed of it, she was thrusted right into one, allegedly. He directed her step by step. Jane thought it was a one-time wild night. She was wrong. He continued offering a real relationship. Jane wanted the escort to wear condoms, but the defendant did not let them. Okay, so at the bare minimum, she at least wanted some form of protection, to which Diddy allegedly denied. Jane tried to make it through these nights without drugs. The first time she broke down and took ecstasy to finish. Another time she vomited, but he said, go do it again. Jane found two men and invited them to join the freak-offs so she could choose the man she'd be intimate with. So he brought allegedly 2 men in and said, which one, pick the one you'd rather get with. The defendant discouraged her from working. He had the power to coerce her back into the hotel rooms. He threatened her with the videos. Not even a year ago, he went to her house. She was angry. She hit him. He became enraged. She tried to hide. She locked herself in her bedroom. He kicked it open. Then the bathroom, the closet, the guest bedroom. He kicked her to the ground. He did not let Jane be. He said, you're not going to fuck up my night. He said, call up an escort and perform. Jane followed his instructions. His violence got him what he wanted. Cassie will tell you about the time the defendant forced himself on her. So they just outlined a situation in which Diddy came to her house a year ago, right? They had some sort of verbal altercation. She got enraged. She hit him first, right? And some people are going to say because she hit him first, whatever came followed, right? That's what they would say. I don't, but that's what they would say. She ran. He then kicked in the door. She hid throughout the house. Allegedly, when found, he kicked her to the ground, right? And then proceeded to force her into another freak-off after this altercation. They now introduce Mia, an ex-employee of Diddy, okay? Mia, an employee, will tell you how the defendant forced himself on her, hand up her dress, penetrating her. Amidst all this violence, he and his inner circle worked to cover up his crimes. The video at the LA hotel, you will hear just how far this went. The defendant offered a hotel security guard a wad of cash, a brown paper bag with $100,000 in $100 bills. The inner circle kept Cassie in hiding for days. For all of this, he is charged with multiple federal crimes, racketeering, conspiracy. Cassie and Jane will tell you of the most painful experiences of their lives. You'll hear from some of the defendant's employees, including his personal assistant, Mia, who he SA'd. She is grappling with it. You will hear from the employee he forced into an SUV with a gun, and from a chef. They worked punishing hours, at times without sleep. They bought drugs for him. They were expected to keep quiet. Some of these witnesses have already received settlements. Interesting. You will also hear from some of the escorts that the defendant directed them and filmed it. An escort saw the defendant assault Cassie and drag her by her face during a freak-off. You'll see records from hotels and the damage and car services. You will see text messages in which the defendant tells staff to bring cash for escorts, and by Jane saying she did not want to do freak-offs. You will see videos. My God, this is probably why they want to keep some of this stuff private. In them, you can hear the defendant provide direction to Cassie and Jane high on ecstasy. You'll see a video of the defendant brutally beating Cassie during a freak-off in an LA hotel. You will see photos of the damage, including to 4 doors in Jane's home not even a year ago. You will see what he had in his home: guns, medical bag of drugs, lube. Okay, so remember when Diddy apologized to Cassie and said he was crazy, he didn't recognize himself, and this was just a one-off incident of insanity? Well, we now get more of a picture of this happening to Miss Jane less than a year ago. Okay? Not to mention all of the alleged abuse that took place between himself and Kim Porter that has been put out there. Kim did interviews talking about it. Okay. You will see agreement with the hotel guard, barring him from speaking after he paid $100,000 for the video. I'm guessing there was an NDA along with the cash transaction. You will hear him manipulate Jane into saying she wanted it. His threats not to pay for her home, texted his staff about it. I ask you to do 3 things. Pay attention to the evidence, follow the judge's instructions on the law, use your common sense, and you will reach the verdict that Sean Combs is guilty. Okay, judge says who for the defense? We have Tenny Garagos, who will now do opening statements on behalf of Diddy to try to make him seem, like he's being wrongfully tried in this court. Tenny Garagos opens up. This case is about love and jealousy and money. They are trying to turn it into a racketeering case. It will not work. You are the jury. You will evaluate the witnesses, and finally the story can come out. This case isn't about what you heard on news. They continue. Sean Combs is fascinating. He grew up in Harlem and built lawful business. He worked for it. He created a culture and produced music that changed a generation. Witnesses will share with you that he is a fascinating person and people are drawn to him. If you wanted to climb in music, apparel, or beverages, you wanted to be around Sean Combs. He gave people opportunities to work at his companies. He had a vision that few had. The witnesses mostly loved him. The text messages will show that. He is 55 years old. He is going to be Sean Combs. Excuse me? I am Tenny Garagos. I am honored to represent him. The only people in this courtroom who will tell you about racketeering are the prosecutors. There was no conspiracy. This case is about Sean Combs' private sex life. The government has no business in that. These hardworking individuals were educated from Harvard to Howard University. He has a temper and got violent. He is not proud of that. We own it. Okay, so we have an admission of, at bare minimum, hot temper and violence. They do not refute the domestic violence. He sometimes gets so jealous or angry, he is out of control. You will hear that he lied to his girlfriend. You may think he is a jerk or mean, but he's not tried for that. He's tried for running a racketeering enterprise. This is DV. DV is not trafficking. Had he been charged with domestic violence, he would not be sitting through an 8-week trial. He is not guilty of these crimes. As the trial goes on, we are going to take on accountability. We will not shy away. Tenny Garagos continues. Sean Combs had a bit of a different sex life. The alleged victims were all getting something from him. They are adults. They too must take on responsibility for their lives as he does for his. A free choice has pros and cons. So according to Garagos, because they were receiving financial benefits, they had to accept the cons that came with it. They say you will evaluate these women. They made free choices every day for years. Ask yourself, what are all the ways this individual had the ability to make these choices? Ask, what is this person getting? Something they want. It may differ. Jealousy drove choices of the victims. Combs never married, but he is a many woman man. He is always in multiple relationships. He was not always honest. It drove a primal jealousy. Sean Combs is extremely jealous. You might think it's hypocritical. They remained in multi-year relationships with him. These women were in love with him. Infidelity and jealousy drove the violence. Alcohol and drugs drove things, but he is not a racketeer. This case is about his relationships with Cassie and Jane. You will hear about swinger parties. They will testify about things that should never be heard in a federal courtroom that he liked to watch. You may not like that, but you are not here to judge him for his sexual preferences. A wealthy rapper paid for these women's homes and vacations. He is not charged with being a flawed individual. These women fought to be in a relationship with him. Cassie, I expect you will hear from her this week about her 11-year relationship. Combs with Kim Porter, the mother of 4 of his children. He continued with her until her death from pneumonia in 2018. His fights with Cassie were about cheating. It was a toxic relationship. They loved each other. Cassie will tell you about the jealousy of Kim Porter, then Gina. The day of the hotel hallway, jealousy was on display. Violence by the elevator bank 10 years ago. You will see it later today. So they're going to play that footage today of course, because they got to talk to the security guard about it. What Combs did is indefensible. The video is not evidence of trafficking. Cassie walked out of the hotel room with 2 bags. Combs comes down wearing only a towel. He stomps her and drags her by her hoodie. He comes back around to get a phone. He says, what causes, or she, I don't know if this is he or she, they say, what causes a fight about a phone? Phones keep the secrets of infidelity. As soon as he gets the phone, he sits down. So this person is trying to justify that Cassie was leaving with a phone that may have had secrets of infidelity. I don't know if it was her secrets of infidelity or his secrets of infidelity. But when he gets the phone back from her, he allegedly sits down and stops abusing her. But according to the defense, he's not on trial for that, right? It's just used as evidence of violent behavior. He's visibly disgusted. Cassie calls security. You will hear from him later today. The guard tells him to leave the public area. You will see Cassie telling him to get back to the hotel room. They stay together 2 more years after this incident. Even into 2018, they are fighting to stay together. She saw a photo of Combs with Gina. He started with her in 2014. Cassie had a choice every single day to stay with him. That was her better choice until she broke up with him. She was not coerced. When she left, there was no repercussions. She ran into the arms of a physical trainer Combs had hired to train her. The only freak-offs you will see at this trial were on her phone, not his. Okay. In November of 2018, Kim Porter passes away from pneumonia. Cassie did everything to be there for him. She flew to Georgia. Amidst a breakup, she flew to be with him. Combs said, Kim was my soulmate. The end of the relationship between Combs and Cassie was triggered by that. Cassie realized all the things she would not be. She wanted to be Combs' wife, the love of his life. She spent 11 years trying to get that. Cassie married the trainer and is pregnant with her 3rd child, not trial. Evaluate Combs' intent at the time for those 11 years. The messages will show she was a willing participant in their sex life. Cassie's testimony this week can't change that, so they're trying to discredit Cassie's story. In 2020 with Jane, Combs was more upfront. He told her he was dating other women. She was still jealous. Jane wanted it public. He proposed a consensual threesome. They went to a private hotel. I expect her to say she enjoyed it. Okay. Jane was desperate to be with him, to give him things others couldn't. She tried to make it more than sexual. I'm not sure how she will put it, but it always came back to parties in the hotel rooms. This was their time together. Jane did it for the cuddle. For the cuddle or for the money? I'm gonna go with what you say here. Jane did it for the cuddle. She wanted to make him happy. She was unable to resist him emotionally. There was a phone call in November of 2023. Even after it, she flew out to see him many more times. It was toxic, but she was willing. Being a willing participant in your sex life is not trafficking. If she'd walked away, she would have lost him. You will see her jealousy. She would see him on social media with another woman, and she would send messages of regret. It's not coerced, okay? So they're painting the picture that because she was willingly in the relationship and because she was jealous of him paying attention and being out with other women, that the nature of these sex parties that he continued to have her in were the reason for the breakup, not because he was violating her or making her do anything against her will. That's what Grrrls is saying as Diddy's defense. She was driven to try to be in first place. This was the way to try to get there. This is not a crime. There was a night a year ago when Jane hit Combs. It was born out of jealousy. He hit her back. She was overcome by jealousy. She slammed his head onto her kitchen counter. Months later, she flew to see him and invited an escort. She will call it one of her best nights, a wild king night, whatever you want to call it. This will be hard to watch. They are, in one word, intimate. So this will have to be shown to the courts. But they're confident that what the court will see is her enjoying this rather than being disgusted or, allegedly abused. That's their defense. The court told you about someone named Mia. Why are they making these allegations now? You will conclude that everyone has a motive. With Mia, she never said it before, nor when she first started cooperating with the government. If this was so hostile, why did they not call the police? They are vindictive. Their motive is simple: money. Cassie filed a public lawsuit in November 2023. She was living in her parents' modest home in Connecticut. She went to a civil lawyer. The civil lawyer is here today. They went to civil lawyers to make a money grab. Cassie demanded $30 million. Another asked for $22 million. How many millions of reasons do these witnesses have to lie? The evidence will not make out the charges. On bribery, this is about the Intercontinental Hotel. He paid a security guard to make the footage go away. This was solely to prevent bad publicity for Combs and for Cassie. He says he was working in both of their interests there. There was no law enforcement investigation because nobody called the police because they was paid off to not do that. Where? The kidnapping related to an employee. She worked for him for 10 years. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I worked for you for 10 years, but you kidnapped me. It's supposed to go away because I worked for you. Okay. She asked to work for him again. Interesting. Drug trafficking. It was personal use. They worked hard. They were there to do something great and novel. It was a free choice. Okay, so he said these people keep coming back after all of this alleged abuse. That's their defense. There was no conspiracy. He was paying different men for their time and experience. Porn actors get paid. Hulkamania, Cowboys for Angels. I don't know who this is. I don't know if Hulkamania is literally Hulk Hogan or some other shit. Okay, I don't know. You can pay money for time and an experience. That is what Sean Combs was doing. You're not here to impose your morality on this man. If you listen, you will find him not guilty of these crimes, of course, as in trafficking. Thank you. At this point, they went for lunch. Okay? So this is a quick update in between lunch. Inner City Press says, with jury out, Brian Steele says, we will be objecting to 2 exhibits. Judge says, in the future, I'd like to hear this the day before. Don't be springing this shit up on me, Steele. U.S. Attorney says, we only learned they objected. This is about an incident report about the hotel hallway broken vase. The report has an addendum. Steele says in the 3rd paragraph, he writes that he did not want Mr. Combs to see Cassie out in front. He talks about a co-worked 80, A-D-E-Y, that Mr. Combs is about to yell. That is speculation and should not go in. So there's certain details about what happened in the hotel that Steele wants stricken from the record. All right. 122, they come back in from lunch. Say they're back, or nearly all of them. Judge says, in terms of the objection, defense, we're still waiting for the defendant. Oh, sorry. 1 exhibit objected to, subject to us laying the proper foundation. It is admissible. The exhibit with the added note, the objection is well taken. It is excluded. Let's get the jury back in. All rise. Is the government ready to call its first witness? First, we enter 4 exhibits. Agnafilo, no objection. We call LAPD officer Israel Flores. He is sworn. Flores says, I'm also a reservist for the Army. I was a guard with Securitas in 2016 in the Intercontinental Hotel near Century City. What happened on March 5th, 2016? I was told of the 6th floor. Okay, so this is where we're about to get into details of that hotel encounter from the perspective of the guard. Okay, I was told of the 6th floor. There, I recognize Sean Combs. He is there wearing a gray sweater. What was your title? He says, Assistant Director of Security. Let me show you a photo of the Intercontinental Hotel. He says it's shaped like a pyramid. Judge says admitted. What kind of incidents did you respond to? He says all kinds. We had a couple of we'll just say unalivings. Y'all know what it says there. We'd prepare incident reports. The 5 W's. Would you attach photos to the reports? He says yes, but not video. We did not have the password. When did this incident take place? Flores says, 11 a.m. I got report of a woman in distress on the 6th floor. I closed the security base and checked the cameras. There was an African-American man pacing back and forth. I didn't see a female. I rushed there. What did you see on the 6th floor? Mr. Combs in a towel and some light-colored socks. He's a rapper, producer, and Cassie on the floor. They proceed to show him photos. Combs in a tuxedo, and in a separate photo, Cassie smiling. What did you tell them? He says, that they were arguing. That if they were arguing, they'd have to take it back to the room. And that the broken vase would be charged to the room. Cassie said she wanted her phone and her bag. Miss Cassie said she wanted to leave. Mr. Combs said, you're not leaving. I saw inside the room not a male black. Let's say black male. Because Flores, what the fuck? Wearing dark clothing, Okay, so there's another man in there at this point. So let me just stop. What did Mr. Combs do after Cassie left? He called for me. He was holding a stack of money not to tell anyone. So immediately the money was to be exchanged. What did you say? Flores says, I said, I don't want your money. The damage is going to be charged to your room. They asked where Cassie goes. He says, after I spoke with her, she left. A car pulled up. She left in a black SUV. They said, was there a driver? He says 7 feet. So he could tell off the rip, but this man was 7 feet tall. He said, she wants to leave. I said, I'm talking to her, not you. They left. Then what? We went up to Mr. Combs' room to remind him of hotel rules. He opens the door and grabs the phone and says, are you recording me? I pinned him to the wall. Oh, snap. That man trying to get active. Flores says, I took photos of the broken vase to tell them to come clean it up. I went to write the incident report. They ask, is this it? He says, my report with my name on it. Defense says, same objection. Judge says, noted. Then did you review the video? He says, yes. I'm handing you a thumb drive with videos. They show the video. Did it have audio? Flores says, no. Let's walk through it. Who is this? He says, Cassie. And this, Mr. Combs. What's happening here? She picked up the wall phone. What did you find when you got there? The broken vase. What is at the end of this video? Me coming out of the elevator. Let's pull up the incident report again. Here we reminded him that the checkout time was approaching. So for those that were wondering what the nature of the video being played in court was going to be, because they claim CNN had the only copy left, and they didn't have an unedited version because it was sped up. Looks like they found more footage. Okay, we'll keep going. They say, what did you add to the incident report after you reviewed the video? He says, I described what I saw in the video. What else did you do with the video? He says, I recorded 2 videos of it with my iPhone. So he immediately made copies. He said, to show my wife at home. So Flores' video of the video with his voice over, including about how shiny his shoes were, is played for the jury. You was impressed by how shiny your shoes was? They say, did you work the next day? He said, no, I had the next 2 days off. When you came back in, did you look for the video? He says, I did, but it was gone. Did you ever see it again? He says, yes, recently, nothing further. Judge says, cross-examination. Brian Steele gets into the thick of it. You said your report was the 5 W's, right? Yes. You mentioned that when you get off the elevator, 11:14 or 11:15, you described Mr. Combs as having a devilish expression on his face. Flores says, that's my opinion. When you get off the elevator, what's in your hand? He says, my radio. Steele says, Mr. Combs did not attack you, did he? No. And was there any law enforcement involvement? He says, no. You videoed for your wife and kept it, right? He says, I did. But never was law enforcement called. He says they were not. You told the jury Mr. Combs said to Cassie, you're not leaving, but your report did not say that, right? He says, at that point, I did not believe it was a significant fact. I'm not going to put down the back and forth. This is where Steele is kind of, all right, you already see Steele is trying to get to him. He said, why did you omit that? He says, I didn't believe it was significant. All right. So they're going to start saying you're willfully deciding what is and isn't important to put in the report. So how can we trust your testimony, right? You see where this is going. So Steele says, so it wasn't important 9 years ago, but only now. Okay. Objection. Yeah, I know how I do. Judge says overruled. He says, I did not put in the report at the time. You said you were offered a bribe, but hadn't you told him he had to pay for the vase? Yes. The gentleman you say you saw in the room you described to the jury, things not in your report. He said he didn't engage. Why didn't you ask him his name? Flores says he wasn't talking to no one. Steele says, did you tell anyone at the time? Flores, no. And the 7-foot driver, do you know who it was? He says, I don't know, but Cassie knew him. You didn't put it in your report that you offered to call law enforcement, but she refused. Why not? Flores says she said no, so there was no reason to include it. Steele, you said you put Mr. Combs against the wall. That's aggressive, isn't it? Flores says it could be, but I only put my forearm against his chest. But you didn't put that in your report. He says you're asking me to have put more detail in my report. Steele says, do you remember the layout? Flores, no, just a corner room. Steele, was it a normal hotel room like I would stay in, just one room, or did it have a living room? He says, I don't know. Steele, the third party, you said he was on a bed. Flores, it was a pullout. You were in the hospitality business as well as security, right? Yes. Mr. Combs, it was clear to you that he wanted to pay for the damage, right? Objection. Cause for speculation. Judge, ask in a different way. Steele, it can be embarrassing for a guest. Objection. Sustain. One moment, nothing further. Redirect, says the judge. Okay, so now we get the U.S. attorney. Did you typically include every single detail in a report? Flores says no. Did he seem drunk or high? No. When he offered you money, what did he say? That he didn't want anyone to know about it, pretty much. Which way was Mr. Combs dragging Cassie? Flores back toward the room. Nothing further. Recross, we get Steele back in. They are motion sensitive cameras, so there are gaps, right? Yes, nothing further. Okay. I'm guessing gaps within the footage because they only turn on when motion is detected. Next witness. Okay, so we have a witness who is unnamed here. USA Attorney Kami says, what did Ventura pay you for? Witness says to have sex with her. Okay, so this is an escort. We're getting right into the bedroom. Sean Combs was there too, witness says. My boss called me and said he couldn't find any of our black dancers, so could I go to a bachelorette party in the Gramercy Park Hotel in downtown Manhattan? What did you expect to do? A little stripper dance. Whoa. So we've got a male dancer here. So we've got a female dancer and a male dancer here. Well, an escort and a male dancer. Excuse me. Well, I won't call her an escort just yet. Somebody who was finna be in concert of some freaky activity, though. Okay, let's just leave it there. Male dancer. She was in a hotel room in a red wig, stockings, and sunglasses. She gave me a few $100. What was the room like? Male dancer. Red couches, Astro Glide, a lubricant. There go that lube. There was a man on the right side of the room. I don't know what Astro Glide is, y'all. Okay. Male dancer. The man had on a white robe and a bandana over his face, below his eyes, and a baseball cap. Oh, shit. This is Diddy. He had a white robe, bandana over his face, and a baseball cap, looking like Joe up top, looking like LaKelly 47 down here. From his voice, I recognized him as Sean Combs. What did he say? That he was into importing and exporting. Importing and exporting, baby. We not talking about goods. This ain't a warehouse. He said he was having problems with my boss. Objection. I'll get back to that. After the sex was over, what happened? Cassie gave me a couple of $1,000 more, okay? So he's testifying that Cassie's the one who's doing the exchanging of the money. Male dancer says he said to give them my phone number. I did. Cassie called me and asked for a photo. Then what? She called me to go back. I did for a few hours and then a few times after that. Combs always present? Yes. Any other locations? Male dancer, Essex House. His residence on 56th Street, I believe 210 at the time. And at her residence on West End Avenue, I think number 10. What name were you to say you were there to see? Male dancer says Black. Interesting name. I would send her vulgar text messages. Like what? You want me to say it? Give an example. I'd text, I want to you right now. How often did you use baby oil? Every time. Okay. Let me see if there's any updates from this point forward. All right, we got a few more details here. What direction did Mr. Combs give you? Male dancer, he'd tell me to step off and back off. How many times, if any, were you told to urinate on Miss Ventura? The defense objects. Objection. Suggestive. Overruled. Male dancer says they told me not to do it all at once. Objection to him saying they. Judge says, I've got it. What happened afterward? Male dancer. They leave me waiting for hours. The whole thing might go on for 10 hours. Male dancer. They were headed to the Essex Hotel. They said to go in 30 minutes. It was the first time he opened the door as himself, dressed in a suit, no mask. How did things change? He didn't feel. Objection. Who, if anyone, recorded? Male dancer. Mr. Combs with cell phone and camcorder. So when his defense says that the only videos from these freak-offs are on Cassie's phone, either he's holding Cassie's phone or it's his phone. I don't know. But there's also a camcorder. So there's at least 2 files of each encounter. He took a photo of my driver's license for insurance. He said, objection. Focus it. What did you understand? He was threatening me. Once I went and Cassie was slumped over, he said, it's not going to happen this time. What the hell that mean? It's not going to happen this time. Maybe she was out cold. I don't know. Let me see if there was anything I missed here. Hold up. Nope, that's how it's documented. It's not going to happen this time. Did Mr. Combs offer you drugs? Male dancer, Molly, I guess it's called. I don't do drugs. MDMH, MDA. I think I went out and handed out $100 bills. How did the Molly make you feel? He said sick and euphoric and like an idiot handing out $100 bills. So he was, at that point, he had lost control of himself. Who else was present? A guy who told me he was an actual escort. He was having sex with Cassie at her apartment. So this is supposed to just be a dancer. But then there's an actual escort that's really getting to it. Allegedly. The guy was like looking at Sean Combs, and Combs said, don't you be fucking looking at me. Objection. Let's get a fresh question. What did he look like? Black guy, kind of skinny. We exchanged phone numbers. Have you seen him in 10 years? No. Did it ever seem you were not the first person there? Yes. Half-used Astroglide, towels on the floor. Okay, so they was, wow. Okay. Lots of in and out, in and out. After the $100 bills, did you see them again? He says, I couldn't do it anymore. Okay, so this person developed a conscience at some point. What did you get paid when you couldn't perform? Male dancer, nothing. But I never asked for money. I was happy to get involved with people with such notoriety. But after I saw Combs hit Cassie, I couldn't do it anymore. Okay, so that's why he stopped, is he saw the abuse firsthand. Okay? What was Mr. Combs saying as he, I'm guessing you mean hit Cassie? Male dancer says, he said, "B, when I tell you come over, you come over. I didn't know what to do." So at this point, we hear, allegedly, we're just going off of witness testimony, that at this point, Diddy is saying, do not evade me. When I tell you to come over, you follow that command, which falls in line with coercion or forced activity. This person here, did you intervene? Male dancer, no. I knew that the changes, there were bodyguards. Objection sustained. What next? Male dancer says, he said, are y'all ready to continue? Did you try? He says, I don't recall. Okay. Did you see them again? I thought I had developed some sort of friendship with Cassie. I may have been speculating. I went there. I heard him slapping her. He walked out in a towel. She ran to me. I asked, why are you staying with this guy? Combs' defense, objection. Ground hearsay. Judge overruled. She said it was okay. Interesting. So this person speaks to the complex nature of their relationship. Okay. I gotta say, at one moment, Diddy is abusing her. He is attesting to it. He's saying, when I say come, you come, which gives headway into force. But then as she ran to him and he asked, why do you stay with him? She says it's okay, which also kind of gives grounds for the defense to speak on willfully staying. You know what I mean? So this is a very complex situation. I don't think there's a right or wrong. Well, it's definitely wrong. Diddy wrong as fuck. But it's going to be complicated to prove trafficking. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like 1 minute it's kind of against her will, then it's kind of is. I don't know how they're gonna, this is a lot to take in. Nothing further. Okay, break before cross. And I'm not sure if Inner City Press got anything beyond this. Okay, there's a little bit. Note during the break. The male dancer witness is named Daniel Phillip, not Phillips, as it first sounded like. Okay, so now this dancer's name has been revealed. Okay. This is an hour ago. Welcome back, juror, but can I have the lawyers for a sidebar? Judge says, Mr. Phillip, you are still under oath. Combs Xavier Donaldson says, let me show you a text message chain between you and Cassie. Is it accurate? Daniel Phillip says yes. And now remember, Daniel Phillip is the male dancer. It's no longer identified as male dancer, but that is the male dancer. Combs Donaldson says you were working for a service. Daniel says a male review show. You were a manager, male strippers for women. Phillip says yes. Or Daniel. Let me keep it Daniel to not be confusing. Okay. Escorting was prohibited. Daniel says that is correct. Your job was to build it up. Yes and no. I'll go with yes. Objection sustained. Did the company open fake businesses to optimize search results? He says fake addresses. It was just SEO. You went to optimize the lady's experience. He says, I have no idea what you mean. It's just our slogan. Cassie told you to say the name Black. He says, yes. Your boss told you someone wanted a black man stripper. Yes, let me show you. U.S. attorney says this shouldn't be put on the screen. Donaldson says take it off. She was wearing a wig. He says yes. She handed you money. She handed me $4,000 before any oil rubbing. Correct. She had on heels and dark glasses. Where'd the money come from? Her hand. I don't know. Her hand, motherfucker. Donald says, you were wearing a New York City Police Department uniform, right? He says, I bought an NYPD t-shirt. You took the oil off in front of Cassie? He says, the oil? No, I took my clothes off. She said, it's my birthday. Okay. It appears she is enjoying herself. He says, yes. What was your position? Missionary. I was like, did that just happen? She asked you for a photo. He says, I do not know if Sean Combs asked for it. Judge says, ignore that. Judge says, we'll pick up here tomorrow. Okay, so that's the end of today, I suppose. Jury's gone. Mr. Phillip, no conversations with the government. U.S. Attorney says agents are providing him protection and transport if that's okay. Sidebar, no talk with your lawyer. Excuse me, no talk with your lawyer. Maybe you mean now. Stories coming with X. So now he's trying to sell some shit. But that's Inner City Press as of 18 minutes ago. I'm guessing court has concluded for today. So as you can see from the dancer, he was just there allegedly to dance, but clearly he was brought in for sexual favors. Well, I won't even say sexual favors, but sex work. And he had physical penetration with Cassie, to which he says she appeared to be enjoying it. So now the thing with consent, of course, is sometimes a person will consent, sometimes they don't. And this person has testimony of her enjoying it and also testimony of her evading Diddy. So again, this is going to be a very complicated push and pull type of situation. It's not so black and white as one might think, right? This is some disturbing, disgusting shit, though. Make no mistake. When you start talking about ordering people to urinate in somebody's mouth, that's some disgusting shit, right? I can see, I mean, it's nasty either way, but I can see if a person requests it for themselves, not to say, do it. Very uncomfortable. Okay. But I think that's what we have for today. Respect to Inner City Press for sharing the transcription from inside the courtroom. Although there were some spelling errors, some grammatical errors, we were able to get to it and we were able to decipher the main idea of these conversations that are happening, the testimony of the security guard and of the escort. Okay, they will resume tomorrow. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing a day-by-day thing. This is an 8-week trial. Doing something like this for 8 weeks, just reading, that's a lot. But I'll see what my bandwidth is and, you know, also look at my availability based on other subjects that may or may not take precedence over this Diddy thing. But it's a lot to process, man. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. At this point, we haven't crossed interstate lines necessarily, but we have hotel, we have Diddy house, and we have Cassie house, all partaking in these freak-offs. Okay. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be safe out there. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rag. Leading my people like quarterback. But I study this shit on my almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef for computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. But drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they died of me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.